Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Eitai. I'm so excited to be here once again, and it's a great opportunity to be here with you. This is the Good Morning Education Show. We're streaming from Lagos to Nigeria, of course, to West Africa, and to the entire world. And we would like to recognize you, welcome you, and appreciate you for joining. And please do not hesitate to tell us your name, your location, where you're streaming from. And if it's your first time experience on the show, also do let us know. On the show, the Good Morning Education Show is always on Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., where we bring about discussions within and around the world of education. We dissect news headlines also within and around the world of education. We treat subject matters as well within and around the world of education. And we bring our guests and analysts who kind of share their views, their different views from their experience and exposure, as well as their expertise on the subject matter of the day. And it's always a robust conversation. It's always a great time on the show. In fact, we have a mantra on the show that says it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. We start with it and we don't stop there. We also end with it. And I'm sure that you get an opportunity to hear us say that as we start the show, to say it's a great morning and it's always a great day. And then when we end, we'll also say that it's a great morning and also that it's a great day. Without wasting much time, we'll go straight to the conversation of the day. Today is going to be a special day for us on the show. And I believe that it will also present itself an opportunity for you to share with us, learn with us, and actually go with us, both in the short term and in the long term, pretty much that way. All right. So that's it as we speak about the show. Today, our topic for the day would will be centered around hello, good morning, Finn. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Education Tribe. And yeah, it's a great morning. It's a great day. It's a great end of the week. And it's exciting to be here this morning.
Fantastic, fantastic. I believe that our conversation today will further drive that. We hope that the network doesn't play a fast one on us today. Um, we're saying that the internet is asking for some acknowledgement. So we say, good morning, internet.
Yeah,
Uh,
good morning, Internet.
yes. So today we're speaking on exit in grand style. We're going to, I don't know if you have any major news ahead of time. If you don't have any, we can go through a conversation straight up.
Yeah, I think we can go into the conversation for the day.
All right. So let's head off to the conversation. We're talking today about exiting or exit in grand style, exiting in grand style or exit in grand style. It's a counsel, it's a notion, it's an advice to people who pretty much have a need to transition from a phase to another, to leave from a particular department or a particular organization like a school to another, or to leave a particular relationship or a particular purpose to another. And I would say that the focus should not just end at exiting, but it should also be seen from the angle of exiting in grand style. And as we start that, I would like to also recognize Sunday Oladokun from Kano. Thank you for joining. Sondola from Kano. We also have Collins Ekere. Thank you, Collins, for joining us on the show today. Right. So, Finn, over to you. Exit and Grand Style.
Okay. What this signifies to me, or what it means to me when I see exit in grand style, is for you to exit in grand style from whatever it is that you're exiting from, then you must have made you must have made quite some remarkable impact before you can exit in grand style. If not, leaving would be, it's either, look, they just can't wait to have you out of the space, either either one-on-one relationships, or leaving an organization, or retiring, or whatever it is. If the impact had not been great, if you had not had left good footprints in the sands of that time, then the exit would not be grand. So I'm thinking um, some people, or some of us, are getting close to exiting certain situations, certain positions, and we may be thinking already, oh, let me just get out of here, let them go with all the stress and all of that. But are we thinking about our own legacy? What legacy are you leaving behind in that place? What have you done that would impact the lives of others positively? And beyond what you have done for others, or what you will do for others, I'm also looking at, what are your plans for yourself after exit? So what do you do for yourself? Certain people will leave some positions, and then they become lost. They don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what next to do, because they've been so used to a routine. They've been so used to somebody saying, oh, do it this way, or do it, or there's just a timetable, and they know this comes after that. And the moment they're out of that setting, they just can't find their way. They just don't know what to do. So this morning, I expect that we'll be looking at these things, our impact, the kind of legacy we're leaving behind, and then what to do after exit.
Thank you very much. That's a very good way to say what to do after exit. Exit in itself, it's not a severance as some people will think about it. I tell people that the end of the old is the beginning of the new. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
And when you look at it, sometimes people fail to realize that you can't be too future centered and future focused that you don't have a link or reference to the past. So many times you want to exit in grand style from the concept of your quality of transition, meaning that you are able to leave and you are able to move on to something. You are able to leave and you are able to still have access to something. You are able to leave and you are able to draw profile from something. So what it simply means is this: if you are an educator, you're a teacher, you're a professional within the education space, or you're a business person, or you're staff of an organized enterprise, right? Your transitioning is an exit. Now, when it is in grand style, it means that the quality of transition makes you able to still knock on the door of where you're living, makes you able to showcase your profile of where you're living, so to speak, so that where you're headed to or where you're headed at, you can make a reference that here I am one who used to be here. And then you are able to reach forward to something that people can point to you as a reference point to say, this is how to live. You are able to still be of value, or better still, of vantage, to the relationships that are around you. Because of course, working in a place for a long time, you formed relationships, you formed culture, you formed habits, you formed reputation, you formed the bond. And leaving is not something that easily anybody would, especially if you've added value, especially if you've had relationships. There are organizations where working with someone is almost like you're turned into family. Because of course, by matrix, if we're to assess the length of time that you have an individual work in an organization, averagely, most times people spend more time at work than they spend more time at home. Most times, if you do the statistics. So your work colleagues or work environment, by some extent, is like your family, if you get what I'm trying to say. So your colleagues naturally could be your extended family members. Why? Because most people spend an average of 8 hours at work. Sometimes some spend much more than 8 hours. I don't know if I'm correct.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So if you spend active hours, 8 hours or so at work, you formed bonds, you formed friendships. Some people depend on you for certain aspect of work to move on. And in some cases, if the office or the organization is not so large in number, sometimes some things are like seeded up. It's almost like your birthright. It's thing that opens the door. Not that other people don't have the capacity to, but they've just signed and seeded it off to Finn. Oh, it's Rotimi that puts on the gen. And so everything that has to do with the gen, if we're not careful, the intelligence around the business thrives and is enshrined around Rotimi. Are you there, Finn?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
I said, so what happens is that if we're not careful, the fear that we will have is a scenario where people get to discover that all of a sudden they don't know what to do. Why? Because the person that normally does this particular thing, right, is the one that has been doing it for God knows when. And however, now the person is leaving or the person left abruptly. So transitioning now brings headache of some sort. That's when we now appreciate what the business management experts have told us about structure, about putting systems in place. That's when we now realize the issue of succession planning, and that's when we realize the issue of pool management and all those things. But the issue is, right at that point, the organization is the same time put their consider those people the organization. So it's almost like picking and choosing because of the presence or the exit of an individual. So exiting in grand style, I think, is something that you must almost have a predisposed design and plan for. Because we must be mindful that exit is not at the time when we are setting of a date. Exit is meant to be fabricated. It's almost like designed within your entire lifespan within that organization. The moment you step in, you must be able to start making provisions for the time you will step out. And this is not meant to be tied to the individual himself or herself. It also is meant to be by the organization. It's almost like when we pick up products, when we go to the supermarket and we see the product stating its own shelf life. The reason we're saying this is because organizations must be able to make projections and make planning possible, so that even if the person is not leaving, you should be able to say that, oh, this person has a possible life shelf of 13 months, 18 months, 24 months, 3 years, 4 years. So at the second year, at the third year, you're evaluating how far. Are you staying? Are you going? You're even interviewing whether the person is saying, yes, I'm staying, just so that you don't get stuck. Let's welcome Safety Chick. Safety Chick, welcome to the show. Good morning. And thank God it's Friday.
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Honorable Fee.
Good
Good to
morning,
be here
Safety
this
Chick.
morning.
Safety Chick, when last did I see you? I'm not talking of social media.
I can't remember. I
And
know. I can't
you
remember.
don't think that it is overdue for you to see my face? Safety Chick, whichever way you answer, you enter trouble. If you say you don't think so, you're in trouble. If you say you think so and you have not come, you're in trouble. If you say you don't know, you're in trouble.
That's why
So
I only laughed and kept quiet
pick
now.
your trouble wisely in a safety conscious way. I'm counting the days for it. All right, so welcome. We're talking about exit or exiting in grand style, and of course, this affects everyone. We must be mindful that our impact and presence is beyond just a mere decision. It runs down deep. Sometimes, people forming dependence on people, and I'm sure we can relate with this when we talk about people who lose loved ones. The dependence is something. Sometimes it's the major thing that I've been able to work with you to the point I am now dependent on you. And all of a sudden you wake up and say, it's checkout time. What's your take on that, Ugochi? Exiting in grand style.
Okay, so I think that I listened to what you were saying about the individual and also the organization having a plan for exit, because the truth is that exits would always happen for whether it's going to happen following a due process or it's going to happen anyhow, it's still going to happen, and that's why it's important for a system to be in place. For an individual, well, usually at the beginning, some people may not even know that they would want to leave, because somebody might get into a place of work and you really love it, so you really want to be there and you're not even thinking of leaving. But it is months down the line or years down the line, as you grow and you get other responsibilities and you see, oh, I can do better, or you feel, oh, this is not good enough for me, I can do more. You decide you want to leave, or maybe the conditions in the environment are no longer favorable and you decide, no, I can't be here anymore. For the organization, for the same reason, people would leave for ill health, for marriage, for looking for greener pasture and exit. That someone is leaving does not make them a bad person. We should try and ensure that leaving, exiting doesn't always result into conflict and chaos. As much as possible, try to make the process smooth from the staff side and from the management point of view. It's because it's just better. We all need ourselves eventually. We're all human beings, we all need ourselves, and it's just good that conflict part of things does not happen. It shouldn't be that, oh, because you said you are leaving. I see that part where he said this, the school can interview to know if people would leave, if people want to leave or not. People might be a bit wary of saying their true feelings, because if you are in a school where if you dissent, you are labeled a certain way and then you are victimized, you won't say the truth, you just keep it in your mind, say, no, I'll be here forever. But in your mind, you know that that's another thing. Once we're able to make sure that exiting doesn't look evil and it doesn't have to degenerate to conflict, it makes people more open to what they want to do, their growth pathway and stuff like that. That's all, sir.
Okay.
Can you still hear
It
me?
looks like I can hear you. I was trying to also check if I'm still here, if I am the one here or something is. Oh,
Okay,
okay. The
okay. I think
internet
Mr.
is
Rotimi
doing.
didn't hear.
The internet is exiting this morning, but we're going to hold it down in grand style.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Rotimi, can you still hear us?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, so you were saying something I didn't really get to hear.
Okay, I was
Hello,
already
can you
done.
hear me? Oh, you are done. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right. So Odetola is saying hello to everyone. Hello from the other side. And I would like to say good morning to Grace Amolka.
Good morning,
Grace,
Mr.
good morning.
Rotimi.
How are you
Good morning, Ugochi. Good morning, Fing. I'm doing very well, thank you.
today?
And good morning to our audience.
Morning,
It's great
Grace.
to be here.
Good morning, Grace.
Morning.
Well, so we're speaking about an interesting topic and conversation. And I love the way Safety Chick put it. She said we must ensure that exiting should not turn out negative. We shouldn't get to a point where we're looking at things with bad blood in the mix. However, do you think, and I think I should bring Grace on this, do you think that there needs to be constant conversation and some level of monitoring and evaluation along the sides of feeling the pulse, so that we are saying that, of course, yes, exit is a must one way or the other, but how can one be prepared for something that is bad if it is not something that you've been having conversations? I don't know. What's your take on that, Grace?
Okay, so I remember working with an organization, and when I was leaving, because you have to leave, that's the truth. If we normalize the fact that everything that has a beginning must have an end, and it doesn't have to be, I think in Africa generally, we see it as a bad thing that someone starts working with you and the person hasn't spent 25 years. Why should the person spend 25 years? Everybody has, the whatever qualities on their lives. And if it's time for them to leave, it should be so normalized that like this world is a very small village. We should see it as such a value hub that same person can be of use to you in the nearest future. So one of the things that I said when I was leaving that organization was that I noticed that there was a culture of shame for people that left. It felt like people didn't even talk about it. You just notice that, oh, this person had disappeared probably after two months of not seeing the person actively working. And I didn't think it was right, and I still don't think it's right. Communication is one thing that I believe can help in terms of, so the employers need to understand what are the goals of this person working in our organization. They should even start to ask questions like, oh, what are your plans? If are you, is there any leaving anytime soon? Like you said, they'll be able to feel the pulse if this person is leaving. So one of my bosses actually tells me all the time that once you're stepping into an organization, you should also have an exit strategy for yourself as a human being, because as organizations have visions, you also should have a vision for yourself. And we know that there are times that you take up an employment opportunity and it's going to be for a time limit because you want to achieve certain goals personally and all of that. So I feel like conversations, it should be normal in a workplace to start to have these kinds of conversations. I know organizations that have exit interviews as well, so that on the part of the employers, you know why people are leaving your organization. If it's something that has to do with the culture of a place, then you can work on that. If it's something that is personal to the person, then it's okay. It's not a big deal that you invest. So a lot of times employers say things like, "Oh, we've invested so much in this person, and the person has gone with the investment." But while the person was there, the person poured their lives into your organization. So I think it's a win-win situation, and we should just change the perspective through which we view exiting. I like that exiting has grand style inside it. So when there are no words left unsaid, when one of my coaches was talking recently about loss, and she said loss is more bearable, and I will apply this, in general. So either loss of a good employee, or loss of a loved one, or any kind of loss of a job is more bearable when there are no words left unsaid, there's nothing left undone. So if I've given my best to the organization and the organization has given their best to me as well, I believe everybody has gained from that relationship. So there shouldn't be any bad blood. It's like if you're in a relationship with someone and at some point you realize that it's not working out. It doesn't have to be that the person was a bad person. You know all those Instagram posts that say he left you because God had a let's stop all that thing. Sometimes relationships don't work because they just don't work. We don't have to make the other person witchy. So let's just normalize it that there are times people will leave our organizations and it's fine. I think that's just it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so someone is saying here, Miss Belima edit, appraisals are very useful tools to measure performance indices and, of course, productivity and interest. However, sometimes some conversations and some assessments don't run down deep, depending on how the assessment is done, and depending on the timing and interval. So for some organization, appraisal is once a year. And the time presents it that time. And so really appraisals could be deliberately explored. But I also want to think that we need to build in some of these things in other non-conventional means. And that's also in the place of open door policy, friendships that are being built within the organization. And of course, when people also see the plan, and like Grace said, for some people, silently, there's a culture of shame for people who leave a particular place. So people sometimes tend to hoard and keep to themselves based on the things they feel or sense happens in an organization. So they've seen two people leave, and the disposition of everyone, the cold feet, the bad air around them, all these things are factors as well. So I think that it's very important. But then the question that we need to now bring to fore, we've said it in the introduction, I want us to almost like itemize them. What would that grant style be in specific? And I would like Fin and Ugochi to answer this question, starting with Fin, then move to Ugochi. In grand style, in terms, grand style, I want us to address the leaving, the exiting in grand style.
So on the humorous side, grand style will be in fanfare, in living with a lot of dance and fun and celebrating it. But before we get to the point of exiting in grand style, I would just like to say this, something very similar to what Grace said about having a plan there needs to be an exit plan. I remember that at my last, the one when I left one of my employments, yes, there was an exit interview, and at that point, if I really had any bad blood with the organization, it was the time to say it because I was leaving after all. But I'm not sure how many organizations do this because one, already they feel like they own the employee once you come in. We like to, in our climb, we like to see stuff like that as negative. So we don't talk about the things that are, we don't like to talk about death. We don't like to talk about the possibilities of separation. We don't like to talk about the possibilities of something not working out. We would rather say, oh, it's going to work out by God's grace. It's going to this, it's going to, I have a positive. But everything that has a beginning has an end. Either way we look at it, or either way any way uh, we interpret it, there has to be an end. And for the exit to be in grand style, it takes the person involved, first of all, realizing that this journey I'm starting has an end. So the end for some of these things can be planned. The end for some cannot be planned. For instance, Grace talked about relationships, like something starts and then you find out it's not working and then you have to leave. But in some cases, you'll be told, no, you can stay there and make it work. You can do this and do that. And that. Sometimes it's easy for you to see from a distance, like this thing is not going to work. So the earlier I exit, the better. So if the person involved, if the person that has to make the move is not seeing that there is an end, is not seeing that at some point I have to get off this train, then they can't have their plan to exit grandly. And that's in putting in their best, giving their all, knowing that, look, I'm here for the now. This is where my allegiance, as it were, is now. This is where, like, we started off with the analysis of how long we spend at work. For some people, it's even up to 12 hours a day. On the average, it's up to 12 hours a day. So if I'm going to give 12 hours a day of my life, 5 days of the week, and sometimes 6 days of the week to a task, to an organization, then there has to be value. That it has to be value on both ways. I have to be providing value. They have to be providing value to me, and I should be able to cut my course and say, look, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I'm going to be here for 4 years. And these are the things that I want to achieve in 4 years. These are my goals. These are my objectives for this role, for this employment, for this organization. By the time I'm leaving, I want to have been able to check off this items. And so those are the steps towards exiting in grand style, because by the time I do that, every day I'm able to check back with my set goals to see, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing here? And if I find out along the way that maybe values, personal values and organizational values are at variance, then at that point I can speed up my plan, speed up my, like, okay, so there's no need coming. We have people who will choose not to work in a place because of their moral codes. Some will, they just find out along the way that there's something they didn't know about the organization and they say, no, I can't be a part of this. Even at that point, how do you still live grandly and say, oh, I know, I can testify that, yes, I'm not burning any bridges leaving this organization. I'm not, they're not going to have to put a disclaimer in the newspaper and say this person is no longer in our organization. Any business you do with them is at your own risk. We need to be able to, and not just for individuals setting their goals and working towards it. I think organizations should also have an exit plan in place for when their staff have to leave. You have to be able to manage, and that's where all of the systems come in. What do we put in place in case this person is not going to be available, in case this person wakes up tomorrow and just says, no, I'm not with you anymore? how are they going to manage it? Because many times the reasons organizations throw tantrums when people leave is because it's a shock to them. They can't easily find somebody else to fill that, or they've become so dependent on that person that they don't even have an idea what that person is doing or how he goes about his processes. So it's a shock to them and they feel betrayed. Many employers feel betrayed when the staff leave and they feel like, oh, why would you leave? What is it? And it amuses me when I hear things like that, like, why would you want to leave? Why would I not want to leave? There are other things ahead to achieve. So yes, for the individual, there's a need for them to there's a need to have your checklist of these are the things I want to achieve while I'm here, and this is how I'm going to do it, and so that we have good relationships. We can refer back. You can put this organization on your profile and say, yes, I was there. I did my time there and I did it well. If you need a reference from them, you can always go back for it. And also on the part of the organization, they should be able to have a plan in place for when their staff leave. It's not, we shouldn't bury our heads in the sand and believe, oh, once this person comes here, they're going to spend the rest of their lives here and die here and give us both of their lives and their death. It's in here. We should also be able to prepare for that and make sure that our systems are perfectly running, or even if it's not perfect, it's smoothly running enough to handle the exit of staff or the exit of someone in our lives when they need to move on. Thank you.
So for me, I would say that exit plan, the way it would look would vary from person to person and also from place of work to place of work. So for example, we know that we have certain organizations that would say, if you are going to leave, you have to give us maybe 1 month notice or 3 month notice. Otherwise, you forfeit so and so of your salary, right? So you can, when someone wants to leave, you can decide to go with any of that. You can decide to do the notice, or you can decide to leave with immediate effect. But whatever you decide to do, just ensure that it is following the laid down rules of the organization. So I would give an example, a real life example using myself. When I needed to leave a place of work, after surveying the situation that I found myself in, I knew that giving notice was going to put me at risk. And when I say put me at risk, it was going to get me in trouble from some quarters. So all I did was I planned within my own self. I planned on what to do. I started following my own plan. And when it was time to go, I dropped my letter of resignation with immediate effect, and I forfeited whatever salary or whatever money was supposed to come, because I knew that to preserve the relationship without getting into unnecessary conflict, the best action to take was to go without that notice. But you see, I've also seen people within my same organization who maybe had to marriage was taking them out of the country, so they did the 3 month notice. And I knew someone who was leaving to an entirely new business, and because she had been in the company for a really long time, a party was even organized and all that. So different situations will call for different action, and that's why you've got to understand what exactly is your own unique situation in your environment. What is important is that first off, the HR should have the rules about what can be done and what cannot be done. As long as you're following the rules, then it's fine. So an exit strategy can be as simple as you waking up and realizing that, oh, my time here is up. So how do I ease out of the system? Do I ease out gradually, or do I ease out with immediate effect? How is that going to look like without it affecting the work? And then you make sure that you have covered all parts of your work, and that you are not leaving any loose ends, and then you do what you need to do.
All right, thank you so much for that. And so many things. Of course, just to add a little bit to what you said, for every rule, there are exceptions, especially for emergencies. But people need to understand, when you're going to the place of exception outside the rules, it must be from the place of negotiation. It's not just mere decision. So for example, something suddenly happens and there has to be, so there was no chance for notice, and pretty much there's no forfeiture of salary that you could do. Um, and there's an emergency. Such situations, they are like you stepping outside the rules. You must, as an individual, seek audience to negotiate, that reality. So there's an effort of some level and some sort. In some cases, under legal guidance, there are there are clauses that can be created. The reason for all this is just to ensure that on the organization is not giving a bad exposure, and also sometimes it also helps to avoid this lack of planning effect, especially when critical roles need to be filled. you know but then it is what it is. Exiting grand style, people must understand that it is their responsibility to ensure their outcomes when they exit an organization. And of course, another way to take this to another level, and I'm going to ask Grace this question, is when we talk about exiting, right? We've shared a little bit of things not to do. We've shared a bit of things to do, but how can people, because for me, I would say a grand style, one of the things that represents a grand style is the place of leverage. How can we get leverage into our exiting? Because a lot of people, I think they are casual leavers or casual exiters. How do we integrate leverage on this?
Um, I'm not very sure I understand your question, Mr. Rotimi. How can we introduce leverage?
So let me help you out.
Okay,
So I
thank you.
know that to exit is pretty much a proponent of what your plan of execution or your career plans are. But sometimes that just leaves it to be what you have planned, and that's you for yourself. But when it comes to the place of leverage, leverage is now taking advantage of that, especially let's say, for example, someone is going to start a business and the person is leaving a particular organization. Sometimes the leverage in that is you could make the organization, win by having a story out of your exit, and thereby also positioning you as an individual with some great story to tell. I don't know whether I get my point. So it
Mm,
even makes your market readiness a better move and a better advantage. Sometimes some people get set up, positively. The organization tends to even set them up so that by extension, it's a brand positioning for the organization. But a lot of people don't give room for this opportunity because everything is close to their chest. They feel that is the organization's loss. In fact, some people celebrate negatively online
mm,
by the time they've left so that it connotes to some other people that the organization just had a loss. The organization is going to be doomed. Watch the organization in the next few weeks and next few months. They are going down because the number one person has just gone on to do his or her own thing.
hmm. Okay. So I'm always an advocate of not burning bridges, and that's why it's important to, however bad things are, I feel like just trying, your possible best if you're the one exiting, to make sure that you live on a very, as much as is in your power, because like Ugochi said, there are times when there are exceptions, but there are different reasons why people leave their jobs. It could be that you're going back to school, for example. The scheduling hours don't work for you, you found a better job or career for yourself, and just different reasons. It could be illness, it could be relocation, it could be, so I think that it's still a two-way street on the part of the employers and the employee as well. On the part of the employee, the reason why you need to try as much as possible to live on a very clean slate is like there could be opportunities from that organization. For example, so say I'm leaving a particular job to now start my consulting thing. That organization can be like my first client. So it wouldn't make sense for me to now form like the Indaboski is leaving the organization and then the organization is doomed. Like there's no need for that. Like we can still be very useful to each other, and I can still get a lot of opportunities from that organization. So I need to, like I said, do everything in my possible power to make sure they're able to transition smoothly. So if there's someone that I need to show the ropes on my duty to help them just have a smoother transition, I think the organization will appreciate it better than just upping and leaving. So yeah, that would be my own take on that one. Try as much as possible to for your colleagues as well. Let it be a joyous thing, that you're leaving the organization, not that you fought with anybody or things like that. Yeah, but in the case of exceptions, sometimes there's really nothing you can do about it. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to throw this question to Fee and to Ugochi. And this is, I want you guys to speak from your heart. The truth is that, being a coach, discovered that there's an element that a lot of people do not really realize. And one of the core elements I'm going to start with is the place of whispers. There are many times that people's exit is not entirely a thought out plan from them. It's actually engineered by whispers. And sometimes, people say so many things, either based on an experience, based on one-sided truth, based on an episode, and then rather run into conclusions. But you find these things happen a lot. And it also is creating the kind of quality of the transition experience that people see. So people advise wrongly, people instigate, just leave them, and it's like you want to make enemies out of things. People don't think of reconciliation, people don't think of, so Finn, what would you say to those grand whispers out there? The sage on the sidelines that know how to poison minds of entrepreneurs and employees and friends as well. Because I see it most times, sometimes it's from a selfish point of view. Any little thing, do this so that let them see. Very evil. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, first of all, we don't have a good conflict resolution system around here. Once we typically go for the glass boost kind of thing. If he brings it hot, I bring it hot. If and you hear people saying things like, let them do their worst. That I myself, I'm not an easy person to deal with and all. We are on the average very reactive, very defensive people. And that's why it's easy for whispers to instigate people to do the wrong thing. Yes, I had been at a place where I had to voluntarily exit when I realized something like this was going to happen. There were already talks. Apparently, there was a cabal in place before I got to this place, and it was working for them. They were having a stab at the owner of the organization, and he didn't know. It wasn't hurting him, but I got in there and I couldn't not follow best practices. And I started hearing things. Things started happening. There were interventions that I had to do because there was a lot of sabotage going on. But instead of, and at a point, they sent some people who they thought were close to me to whisper and say, look, you see, this thing, it really doesn't have to be this way. These are the ways you can benefit. But it was at that point that I had to activate my value system and say, look, I'm not saying you guys are bad people. I'm not saying that I'm better than you, but I have my value system. I would not do these things simply because I have made up my mind that wherever I work, I can go back there. I can. I'm not going to leave any bad blood behind. And I realized that because of my closeness to the uh, to the chairman of the organization, it was also going to put him at risk. And I just had to leave. He never understood why. I just told him, look, I had this family things, and which had happened at that time. I had some things I had to do at that. So I just wrapped everything around that and said, see, I have certain things to do. I need to leave. I could come back. I could just soft landing. But where people take wrong advice, where the whispers are, how could they say that to you? How could they do that to you? Your mates are doing better in other places. There are better opportunities for you with all that you know, with all that you've learned. If you take it into this organization, you're going to hammer, you're going to, and then the person too just feels, yes, I've been cheated. I can do this. I can do. It's because they themselves did not really. They don't have a value system. They don't really know what they want out of that place. And at one the study session that we recently concluded, we're talking about workplace terrorists. I think these are workplace terrorists. They would not only they don't only want to take over people, they also want to take over the organization. So the more they whisper, the more dissenting voices there are in that organization, the easier it is for them to penetrate. So it's essential for us as people to, as individuals, learn conflict management. It's not everything that has to be basketballs and, oh, if you give it to me this way, I give it to you that way. It's not always, it doesn't always have to be that way. And then when we have those issues, when there we and somebody can whisper to me and say, oh, it's a good thing for you to jump off a skyscraper. Just try it. You would enjoy the thrill. It's another thing for me to take it and say, okay, yeah, well, okay, I think I want to enjoy to feel what that thrill is, or for me to activate my common sense and say, look, without safety gears, without landing gears, I should not try this. I would say that um, for the whisperers, that ministry that they are on is not a good one. They need to get off it. They need to re-engineer that, because if you have such great um, what's it called now? If you have such great convincing skills, you can convince people to do the wrong things. Then you can also take it and invest it in. They can start a consulting business with that and help people be their best self, instead of now being the reason for dissension, for making the wrong moves, for taking the wrong steps, and for those who are also listening to the whispers and using
Thank you
that
so
as an
much.
excuse. Then they really need to reevaluate their value system.
All right. Let's have Ugochi. Let's have Ugochi in the next few minutes.
Okay, so I do not
Ugochi,
think
are you
that
there?
people need to make this. Yes, I'm speaking, sir. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
Please. Awesome. Okay, so I do not think that people need to make the exit process a battle, and I do not think that we should I say, get involved in factions when it comes to that, because the truth is, when it gets to exit time, I don't know why the environment just starts to breed all kind of stuff. And so it's the onus is on the person who wants to exit to try and manage it as gracefully as possible with a lot of emotional intelligence. And that's why, if you realize that giving notice might end up putting you in trouble before the day, because some people will now want to spoil your good record at the last minute, it's better to leave without notice. Because it's good to just maintain that good record that you have had, because again, remember that you want a situation where you go to your new place of work, and even if people say people complain about it, they can't say anything bad about your work ethic, because that work ethic is sacrosanct. Because people will be able to be able to differentiate between work ethic and whispers and the office grapevine and things like that. And so, as much as possible, you must guard that as much as you can. And so wisdom is really profitable when it gets to this part of exiting, to ensure that you're not stepping on any toes, you're not ruffling any feathers unnecessarily. You just observe your own unique environment and then make the best decision. And when you want to make the decision, you must also be very wary of people who are coming to fuel issues. You have to try to avoid it. I remember when I was already planning to leave, somebody did not know, is a member of staff did not know yet, but because she knew that I was one of the bold people who could speak up on issues that affected staff, she came to inform me about something and wanted me to be the one to report the issue, because she felt she was pregnant, and it was risky for her that in a pregnant position to report the issue, that she was going to be victimized and all that. And she just for some reason felt it was better if I was the one that would report the issue to the MD, taking it out of our unit, because the issue was within my unit, taking it to the MD. But you see, I thought about this thing very hard and long from various angles. Yes, of course, I could have actually spoken to the MJ about it because it is for the greater good. But it's when I analyzed the whole drama involved and seeing how somehow, even though what I was doing was for good and was for the people, these same people were the ones that would rise. And I just said, well, I'm about to leave. Let me just carry myself and be going. Let me just carry myself and be going. There's no time to come and do Jesus Christ here. But you see, again, that was because I had observed the situation in the environment. If, for example, I wasn't leaving and I had to remain there, maybe I would have come up with another way that issue could have been solved without necessarily going to the MD. But at the point, I just felt I'm already almost out of this system, and I don't even want to put myself in more issues. So I had to I just listened to her, but in my heart, I knew I wasn't going to take any action and all that. So emotional intelligence is very important, so that you are not taking on the
All
battles
right.
of other people and taking it over, and then those people will not even stand the day something now comes up. You have to be very careful.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I still want to say that for those who are listening, your case and context must actually speak to your response and your disposition. Please do all you can to follow the rules and negotiate when you have to step out of the rules. But let it be contextual, not because of fear or what you anticipate and assume. So exit is exit and transitioning. There's
Okay, Gochi, can you hear me? Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So
I can hear
the
you.
internet has exited in grand style. Oh, but I think we can round off the show now. Oh, okay, he's coming back. Let's see. Okay, so we can round off the show now and sign off. Thank you to everyone out there who has been a part of our week, who has signed in, shared our content, shared our link. And as you go forth into the weekend, we like to say that, okay, he's back. Just
Yeah,
before
continue.
we
You like to
sign off.
say that as you go into the weekend. You like to say that.
We like to say what we normally say as we round off the episodes, each episode. And yeah, let's take it together. It's always
It's always a
a
great
great morning
morning on the
on
On
the
the
Good
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 Morning
Morning
Education
Education
Show.
Show. Bye bye.